That was the final version of my animation. I created this animation using Autodesk Maya. The buildings were created with a procedural generator. Procedural generation is when something is generated algorithmically rather than manually. The generator was Clued City, a free-use plugin which uses Maya's Mel script to make the buildings using footprints. Clued City is not without its flaws. This may have been typical to me, but say I'd made a few buildings then closed the script. Whenever I tried to make more buildings afterwards, Clued City would come up with an error saying the name was in use, even though I'd made a new footprint. To combat this, I would try and make all the buildings in one save file, then copy them to my main project. Clued has, however, been an extremely helpful and time-saving plugin. The only part of the buildings I had to make myself was the structure the ball came out of. As for the rest of the set, I did run into a few problems, one of which you've probably noticed, the sky. Originally I had a three-sided irregular shape. One side was missing so I could see my animation. However, in the reflection of the ball, you could see half the set was missing. Simply placing the wall back on didn't work, as there were not enough buildings near it, so it looked blank. Instead, I copied my irregular three-sided shape and pasted it on the other end, making a strange diamond shape. This, of course, messed up my lighting. I had tried making a sky sphere by making half of a NURB sphere. However, for some reason, only half of the sphere would light no matter what I did, so I went back to my strange diamond shape. This means you can see dark shadows on some of the corners, which breaks the illusion of the sky. With the road, I was going to make one very large texture, which I would make in Photoshop. However, as I was constantly rearranging my buildings, I instead used a white plane for each of the markings, which, as you can imagine, led me to having hundreds of these copied, which made using the hypergraph panel an absolute pain. I had a total of 3 cameras in this animation, 2 to film the ball and 1 for the cutaway shots, which were filmed after the ball's animation so the ball wouldn't be caught in shot. One of my cameras kept flashing in some places. I didn't think much of it and carried on animating. However, when it came to rendering this camera, it would only render the skybox, so I had to make a new camera and redo each of the keyframe placements, then manually enter the location of the camera and the angle for every single frame. It took a long time, but the camera looked the same. The aesthetics of my animation were heavily influenced by Mirror's Edge. I really liked the simplistic colour style and the clear distinction between the blue buildings and the red objects. My interpretation of Mirror's Edge is that they're trying to show the oppressive companies by making all the buildings obsessively clean. The reason I wanted the ball to stand out was to emphasise its loneliness as a character as well as make it unique. Near the end of this assignment, my Maya project broke. Whenever I open it, I'd get a massive grey screen. So one time I managed to open it and none of the buildings were there. The ball was completely gone. The skybox was the only thing that was there and it was only half of it for some reason. I have no idea what happened. But luckily, I'd captured a lot of the clips. I'd missed a few frames on the last one, but I had to salvage them the way I could and edit them. Obviously, I'd add more camera angles if I could and try and fix the skybox so there wasn't that big, ugly grey mark. What the animation is actually about is up to the audience to decide. On the one hand, it could be a depressing story about a ball who tries to kill itself and fails. Or it could be a story where a ball is jumping off buildings and having fun. To emphasise the fun side, I made an alternative video.